Welcome back. We have an episode today. We haven't done one in a while, so I thought it'd be fun to catch up with everybody on all the off-season moves. I had COVID for about a week, so I was going to make some episodes. My voice was hurting a little bit, so we're finally feeling good here. And I got my buddy Gamma back on here, and we are going to do a nice little off-season recap. A lot of stuff has happened since the last time. Kind of went over everything. Baltimore has gone and won the World Series, and that is the most recent thing that's happened in TLG game-wise. It's been a long offseason, so that feels like a long time ago, but that was the most recent series we had, knocking off Boston and LA, and then they knocked off Colorado, a couple of really good series. So really, really cool playoffs for them. We'll give a quick little review here of Boston, how they pulled that off with Gamma here, and then we will talk about a bunch of the big moves made in the offseason, some big free agent signings and trades. So Gamma, what did you think about Boston and their rotation? They had Rocker and Spar and all those guys pulling it off, winning the
You mean
championship.
Baltimore, right?
Oh, did I say Boston?
Baltimore, a little Boston, a little Freudian slip right there. Because I think you're still
Oh,
shocked from
the
what
bees.
happened. Yeah, no, I think it's proof that we're in a simulation that Baltimore won the World Series. But yeah, his staff was stacked, and I'm really proud. It's like a proud father seeing Master Donato have that big game in the World Series, especially against my division foe. So that was pretty sweet. Like, I'm very happy for him. Only wishing him the best. I think more people should trade with Arizona. Good things happen. They win the World Series. So I was very happy for Baltimore.
Yeah, well, we got your boy Gil Orm there too, winning a ring in the same trade there.
Yeah,
What a
yeah.
move! Worked out for
It's
both
like
teams.
yeah. What was? Oh, I'm forgetting. But it was like with Detroit with Stafford when they had that like pathetic little like, oh, it's kind of like we won too. That's kind of how I feel. But not quite seeing those guys win.
Detroit in football's got to celebrate something, man. Holy smokes, poor guys.
Yeah, that's. I remember when I was a kid, actually, before Boston had like success, like in 2000, they had like a parade for Ray Bork when the Avs won the Stanley Cup.
Oh
So
God, that's
that
pain.
was a little. Even as a kid, I realized I was like, I'm not even a hockey fan, but like I was like, that's rock bottom right there.
Times got better for them at least. I'm looking here.
Well, did the
I didn't
Avs actually
realize.
win tonight?
Oh, I should check on
Sorry.
that actually. No, I was thinking the same thing. As soon as you said that, I should
Oh, they
check.
did. So hey,
It's
speaking of the
over.
devil, they won the Stanley Cup. Yeah.
Damn, there's another Colorado team making the finals. This one won. So we got
Yeah,
206
team's
innings
actually
out of Master
successful.
Donato. I didn't realize he pitched so much last year. So yeah, that's pretty impressive season there, logging a ton of innings. What a team, man!
Yeah.
That was so exciting to see. I love seeing those lower payroll teams knock off the higher ones. Sometimes it just shows if you do things the right way, you can still build a winner. I love how they're moving some of these guys around in preseason too. Figueroa learning some third base there, so pretty smart moves there. And Garcia learning some second. This dude's got a lot of blue in his profile. Holy smokes, the shortstop there. So
And
amazing.
it was just nice to see Brian win too because he was there from the beginning with the Orioles. So like it's nice that like he stuck it out and finally get rewarded for the patience because like I know it was not an easy build.
Yeah, that seems like a good dude there. Just looking at his team now, looking like Milello went up to 80 stuff there, that closer, so looking like he's going to have a big career. All right, so if we're going to talk about some offseason moves, so the first thing that happened in the offseason, there was a couple big time signings right off the hop. First of all, we got St. Louis doing a couple big money deals. I'll start off with that one because that's your boy OZZY Albies. Goes to Arizona and has a career year. That's why I said it's a win-win trade for both sides. Gilorm and Master Donato going and winning a ring. You got a 4.7 WAR season out of OZZY. He goes in, is looking like he's going to take that DH spot, probably rotate in the infield a little bit. The guy had a monster season last year with a 129 WRC plus. 308 hitter, so really big impact guy. You got a first round pick out of him, I remember you saying, so that's pretty cool. And St. Louis really puts out the money for this guy, 28 million with a 17 million the following season. So they definitely thought it was a legit season he performed there for you.
Yeah, I love Ozzy. I mean, I think this Ozzy Albies, like the real life Ozzy Albies, should hire the agent of the TLG Ozzy Albies because he's clearly much better at his job than the real life one.
Yeah.
I think Albies is a very good player. I did not think he was going to make 28 million. But it's a short contract, and like St. Louis is a team that can afford it, and like I think he's going to produce in that lineup. Like he's just going to be ultimately protected, and like he's not even defend. I think he'll put up he'll hit up close to 300, just put up a lot of runs, hitting second in probably one of the best lineups in the league. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good signing for the situation. Just I still can't believe he's almost making $30 million. I love to see that for a former Diamondback. Nothing but love for OZZY.
Yeah, I always loved that dude in real life. One of my favorite players in the league. Is really, really. It's too bad they give him such low range now in the park because he's a higher range guy in real life, I'd say. But really, really good talent there. Still has a ton of skills, even though he's lost some of his range with his age. Looks like he should be able to definitely produce there, like you said, in front of Poisson and Miranda. That's just a beautiful spot to be in for sure. And then they also went out and signed Chris Sale. Chris Sale went and got a 1-year deal for $25 million. He is the ageless wonder. He's TLG's version of the real life Adam Wainwright, where he just doesn't seem to age, just keeps getting better. And he's got 4.6 WAR, and last year he had 3.5, and that's in really limited innings. And he doesn't really get injured that much. That's just Tyler in Boston being smart with his load management and trying to keep him healthy. So he hasn't really had any major injuries in TLG, and he's just been able to stay healthy for the playoffs. And 4 years in a row with a sub-4 FIP at age 35 to 38. So that's just crazy. He's turning 39 here a day or two before the season starts. So it's just incredible what he's been able to do in TLG. Can't wait to see how he does in a pitcher's park with a good defense there in St. Louis. Could have another good season. We'll see if he can play right into his
Definitely.
40s. Crazy talent.
Yeah, I think it's a good 1 year gamble because if it's expensive for 1 year, but again, St. Louis can afford it, and if it works out, he looks like a genius, and if not, he has other talent that can replace it. I like the gamble. I can't believe that Sale's still this effective at this age, and that his arm hasn't fallen off just based off real life. It just really, again, kudos to Tyler and the job he did keeping him healthy, because that really is a miracle if you follow Chris Sale in real life.
Yeah.
That's just not what happens.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bodies you think would age worse of any pitcher I've ever seen. A guy that's that skinny and that thin of arms, throwing with that kind of torque on his slider, and just the ridiculous, you can't imagine how he hasn't had three Tommy Johns watching him pitch. It's such a sideways action. That's you'd never
Well,
imagine him staying
I
healthy to
remember
that
when he
age.
was in the White Sox system as a prospect. They were always saying oh, his delivery, he's gonna probably fuck up his arm eventually, just the way he throws the ball. And they were right. So I'm happy to see that he's doing well for TLG.
Yeah, he's a beast. So, anyways, that move was a pretty big one. St. Louis looks like they're going to be right back at the top of the standings. Them and Pittsburgh, yet again, just look like powerhouses. Pittsburgh's reloaded quite a bit. The Cardinals just kind of restocked a little bit, I would say, when Pittsburgh did more of a rebuild, getting two
Yeah.
more top pitchers like we talked about last episode. So that division's going to be tough. Next big move we have up, another one with ties to Arizona. Boston goes ahead and picks up the boy Mike Trout. Mike Trout is going to the twilight of his career. At age 36, he is coming off a little bit of a down year. The first down year of his career, the lowest WAR he has had since 2022, where he only had 5.5 WAR. So this
Only
last year,
5.5.
yeah, only. Poor guy. That guy's just been insane in TLG. So another guy like Sale that's just aged wonderfully. Last year, his ratings actually didn't dip at all for you, but he did definitely have a really slow second half. If you look at his batting splits, I don't know if you can see. I guess you can't see the month to month anymore from last year, but he had 3 WAR for you in the first month, and then he had 0 WAR the rest of the year, or something like that. It was crazy, right?
Well, he got hurt too, so I think
Yeah.
that kind of derailed him a little bit.
Yeah, so we'll see if the ratings fall, but he definitely lost about 50 points off his on base percentage last year compared to every other year. So be interesting to see. Even if he's 70% of what he is, though, he's still an incredible player. That's how elite he is. So Boston doesn't need him to be like that 9 WAR guy. They just need him to stay healthy, get on base, just be another tough bat in the middle of that lineup, play a solid. Really be a plus left fielder with 65 range, actually be one of the highest rangy corner guys in the league. Probably give him a few games in center field if they need to. So really nice fit there. And I thought it was a good trade from both sides because I just think he's making so much money in these last couple of years here. The retainment goes away after this year, so Austin's going to have to pay the full $35 million the next few years. That's a lot of money for a budget like yours, where you're not quite as high as those top 3 teams. So it's a big, significant part of your budget going to one player. So I kind of liked you spreading it out a little bit and giving yourself a little bit of budget room. And I thought Boston was one of the only teams that could really afford that $35 million contract. So an interesting move that totally makes sense for both sides, I'd say for sure.
Yes, and I'm sure me being on the line has no impact on your trade commentary, but yeah, I can give you like a little bit behind the scenes thinking. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like it was definitely financially motivated. I think also having a young, cheap center fielder in Bobby Aycock, who I think deserves the reps and like really overachieved last year, and like is a very good young, cheap center fielder. I saw this as an opportunity where I could I'll definitely take a hit with Trout being gone, but Bogan he's a worse hitter, but he's still a very good hitter. And I really like the pitcher I got. I think he could potentially, if he develops right, could be like a number one or a number two, while also saving $10 million. I know, I can understand why the rest of the league's frustrated to see Trout go to Boston, but I have to do what I think is best for the Diamondbacks. I can't worry about making Boston better. I gotta look at my team and just do what I gotta do.
No, I feel you for sure. I think it's like I always talk about baseball buddies and stuff. Those top guys never get quite the return you think they're going to get because financially, it just eliminates like 25 of the 30 teams once you get to those guys making over $20 million a year. Because there's so many teams like Miami and those small budget teams that just you can't afford a guy making 35 million. So it's really hard to go trade a guy like that because you just only have like 4 or 5 teams that have the budget space for that, and then out of those teams, that's just
And
the
they
teams that
also,
have the budget room. Then some of them already have that position filled or whatever. So makes the
or they're not ready to compete either. So yeah,
yeah,
it
exactly.
really has to be the right. So yeah, I'm sure on theory yeah, Mike Trout, but the market is, as you said, it's a lot smaller than you realize. But I'm happy with the return.
No,
I
for
think
sure.
Trout will probably have an 8 WAR season in Boston just because it's Boston, and he'll work his magic, give him
Hmm.
some roids. He'll add 60 home runs.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, it's like all the big budget teams right now, especially both New York teams are in a rebuild. The Mets and the Yankees. The Dodgers, historically the biggest payroll team, they're in the end of middle of their rebuild, I'd say. And then you get some other big budget teams like St. Louis already has their center fielder there. And then I already have my $30 million center fielder. So it's like you said, it's yeah, it really narrows it down. So Boston just ended up being a really good fit. And like you said, even though some people are probably sad to see one of the best players go to the best teams already, but definitely something that just happened. And next up, we have Aaron Nola. I thought I'd bring this one up next. That was my boy Nola. He was the longest tenured Philly ever since 2017, 2015. TLG started in 2020, and he had been with me ever since then. So it was really hurt to trade away such a long time Philly, a guy who's been awesome and had 34 career WAR for me. But thought the time was up. He always underperformed just a bit, even though he was really solid for me. He looked like with the ratings he could have been like an ace, and he just always seemed to have 2 WAR in a really tough pitcher stadium with all those home runs. But I thought I needed to shed some salary, and Detroit jumped on the opportunity to add an ace they haven't had since Matt Manning. So that gives them a really good number one pitcher, and they actually overperformed quite a bit last year. Won a ton of games. I thought for the talent level they had, did a really good job. So I think adding a number one pitcher could actually make them a little better than people think. I think it always helps adding a really good pitcher. It'd give you almost 200 innings. That guy, 70 stamina. I always gave him some smaller limits because he always seemed to get hammered by the home runs a little bit in my stadium if I kept him in past those the second time through the lineup. But I think in Detroit, where it's a lot harder to hit home runs, I think he could easily log 200 innings for them and be a workhorse. So I kind of like the fit there. All right, next
Do you
up.
think he's still?
Oh, sorry, what's
Do you
up?
think he's still good enough? Do you think he's still good enough to be an ace in a rotation, or do you think he's more of a middle rotation now at this stage of his career?
Yeah, I was just as you're saying that I pulled up his ratings there. I have him pretty much the same. He just lost a little bit of movement there, but it looks like to me that's pretty fringe, number two, number one uh, ratings there. 55, 50, 60 with 4 really good pitches, high work ethic, high intelligence, fan
Hmm.
favorite, high stamina, nice velocity. It got a lot, checks a lot of the boxes there. So yeah, I definitely isn't in that elite tier, but ratings wise, it looks pretty damn close to an ace to me. But probably not quite on the level of a pop in your guy or someone that's got a little bit more stuff at this point in their career. But yeah, I think a really good number two though for sure.
Definitely.
All right, this one is. Let's hear your opinion on the big move in Cleveland. I won't. I'll be biased if I talked about myself. We shipped off Fernando Tatis just yesterday, and to Cleveland for big name pitcher Bobby. Or sorry, not Bobby Witt. We got Tanner Witt, the old stud of TLG. Had a couple TCRs back in the day, turned into a stud, and then I also picked up Brad Rattray. And then while you're at it, you can talk about him picking up big signing there, and Taylor Trammell, one of the bigger free agent signings. So Tatis and Trammell both going to the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, so Cleveland's definitely, I think they sense that they have an opportunity to make a run in their division, so they're going for it. I definitely respect that. Like Tatis is like an impact player that they're joining to their roster. As I told you off the chat, I like it for you because you do have infield talent to replace Tatis, so you're building up a weakness while taking a little bit of a hit. But I think the overall gain makes you better. I personally love Witt. I think he's an ace. I think he was the main. I think for me, he was the biggest part of the package. I think he's the reason why. Like my scout loves him. He has 3 elite pitches. Young, throws gas. He's just Philly's gonna love him. 6'6", great size. And I really like Rattay too, or Rattray, however the fuck you say his name. I think in your park he's going to be a stud in the corner. So I think this is a great return for an elite talent like Tatis. But I also really like what the Guardians are doing because they are in a division that's up for the taking and they're making moves to establish themselves.
Yeah, looking at that lineup, adding Tatis really makes them a lot more dangerous. They got Jamie Joyner, a 65 power first baseman from San Diego. They got Brett Batty from Arizona. He was on your squad a couple years ago. He's all the way up to 65 power now. Progressed quite a bit with the power and eye combo plus hit tool. Looks
Yeah.
like a big bat in the middle there. Hunter Bishop had a monster season last year. Last 2 years, actually. He hit over 60 career combined home runs between the last 2 seasons. And then they have Nate Stevens, a pretty good power hitting catcher with 55 power. So that lineup all of a sudden has quite a bit of thump to it, and that's got a lot of really good young pitchers in that rotation still, even without Witt. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
definitely on
No,
the up and up.
yeah, so I mean that division is gonna be interesting. I think it's gonna be a real dogfight between those teams. I think with these moves though, I really like what Cleveland's going to do. Let me see what. So yeah, they're projected to win the division. I think I would agree with that. But the preseason projections are low on Chicago. I haven't really been following Chicago if they've made any moves or not.
Yeah, Chicago White Sox still have quite a bit of talent there with Moncada and all those good arms they have, but I think Cleveland's got quite a bit of star power now. I think they might be close to a 90-win team now, looking pretty nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Atlanta on my list here. Atlanta made some big moves here. Cabrian Hayes, so that's the second year in a row they picked up a big talent from Pittsburgh. Last year they went and they trade for Ronnie Mauricio. Huge trade. They gave up like 5 really good young arms. Ed Davis was one of them, one of the guys that ended up getting shipped to Cleveland, big time talent. A couple really young, like 18, 19-year-old arms, really high ceiling guys there. Ronnie Mauricio turned out to be well worth it. He had 719 plate appearances, stayed healthy the whole year, went out and had 23 stolen bases, 15 home runs, had almost 5 WAR playing second base there. Really good defense too. So it was just an incredible impact player for them. So they go back to the well there and pick up another Pittsburgh Pirate and Cabrian Hayes, who looks like he's going to slot into be their shortstop this season. Hayes 2 years ago was a 5.6 WAR player that was in the top 10 for the MVP voting, and he has been awesome for Pittsburgh for years. He hit 270 last year, about 100 OPS plus, about 3 WAR. So he comes over. That's a big time talent. I got 70 range on him, 70 stealing, plus eye, 50 hit tool, pretty good for shortstop there. So pick up a big addition there. Then they go and they sign a couple real big time free agents there. So Rafael Devers was a huge signing. Devers is a guy that is just loaded with hardware. Guy's got 5 World Series rings, 4 in TLG, and the real life 2018 Red Sox ring. The guy is just incredible. Backstory on him at only 31 years old. He's just accomplished so much. He has an MVP in 2026. He was the AL MVP. So just a ton of hardware, a bunch of ALCS and DS MVPs too. So just incredible talent. And then they also go and sign one of the best relievers in baseball, my boy there, Robert Dominguez. Sir Anthony Dominguez. Dominguez has been one of the better relievers each year in TLG and stayed healthy and has a monster ratings. What do you think about Atlanta? I know I'm going to be a little biased on them, so I'll ask your opinion since they're my arch enemy division rival.
I mean, I really like them. I was in on Dominguez, but I think he did it right before the Trout trade, so I don't think I had enough money. I really regret that though, because that's a huge addition to the bullpen. I love the combination where he's 75, 60, 50. That's an elite arm coming out of the pen. I love it even better for him that he took it out of your bullpen into him and just addition by subtract, like just really going for the jugular there. Devers, I don't know, does the game factor in like World Series wins? Like, does that like play an interest, like a role into chemistry? Do you know?
That's a good question. I know it happens. It helps your like extreme popularity stuff. If you win World Series titles, I think there's a lot higher chance you become popular just based on like the
Mhm.
national too. So I don't know how much it comes into chemistry though.
But even if it doesn't, like that's still a great addition. That's a impact bat for an already stacked lineup. Like I love their young outfielders that they have in their system. They're going to be a scary team. Like that right fielder that they have this year, it looks like he's a candidate for rookie of the. I think he's a rookie this year. He might have played last year. No, he played 73 games last year, but the I don't know how to say his name, Musri or
Yeah, that
Musri.
guy's got crazy ratings.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to be the face of the Braves. So I think they are the favorite in your division right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're got a little bit more talent than me. That's just their pitching so damn good. I have a pretty decent team, but I just when you can trot out Nate Pearson, Soroka, and Cole, and all those guys, that's the next thing I want to ask. Did you get an email? Do you guys remember getting an email? Anyone watching here for Garrett Cole? I got one a week or two ago. If you look in his history and
Let
news
me
involving
check.
player, it says Garrett Cole hires and works out during offseason with noted
Oh, I
nutritionist and
did.
mechanics guru. So I don't really know. I know there's like usually TCR emails and stuff like that, so I don't know that one specifically if what that helps with, or if that's just kind of like a storyline thing. But it can hurt for sure. It looks like a really impressive email there
Maybe
saying
it
he's going to
helps
help.
his durability or something like that.
Yeah,
Curious.
yeah. 37 years old. It looks like he's got some guru, like a Tom Brady type guru that does his diet and stuff. So that'd
Yeah,
be crazy if he can play into his 40s too. He's 37 years old, and same as Garrett, or sorry, what's his name, Chris Sale. There, dude's just pumping out three
yeah.
WAR seasons still. It's unbelievable.
You think Garrett Cole kisses his son on the mouth too, or no?
Oh, I'd hope not. That's friggin' Thomas.
I love Tom though, but yeah,
That was a little weird for
that's
sure when I
fine.
read that. I thought that was fake at the start, and then I realized it was real. I was like, oh god. So yeah, Atlanta's scary because they don't look like they're going to be a team that ever falls off because Nate Pearson's going to be around a while, and then they have one of the top prospects in all baseball. If you look at their major league
Yeah.
roster, Jose
Oh, I
Ramirez,
know.
this guy is nasty. 70 range, 60 home run power, 60 I, huge gap power, huge speed, huge base running. 55 contact, 55 avoid K. The guy's got absolutely everything, and he's durable. So about as perfect a prospect as you can get, plus high intelligence. So really, really has absolutely everything. This guy looks like he's going to be a superstar center fielder that hits 30 home runs a year. So not looking forward to him coming up in a couple years. He even though Garrett Cole and Freddie Freeman, some of those older guys are going to age out, it looks like they'll just be able to be
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
competitive for another 10 years or
I
so. So
also really
it's
like
crazy.
Robert Musco, that third baseman in his system too. The 18-year-old kid, like he looks like he's gonna be another. Like he's got a great personality. 65 contact, 60 power potential, 60 avoid K at 18 years old. That's like yeah. So like
Oh yeah,
they're going nowhere.
jeez,
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't
So
realize he got so good.
really impressive team. Yeah. No. No. No.
Yeah, that's a good
They have a
find.
lot of intriguing talent.
That's for sure. Enough about these Braves. I'm getting scared here. Next on to
Yeah.
Toronto. Toronto made a big move and picked up Danny Vallejo from San Diego. San Diego's doing a bit of a rebuild. They're in a really tough NL West. They moved Patino and they moved Mackenzie Gore, their two best pitchers, and then they moved their best hitter, Danny Vallejo. So they picked up a lot of prospects in return. I like the return on Vallejo. If you look, Alex Pera was the main prospect in this trade. Really high end pitcher at 18 years old, turning 19 today. He's got four pitches, more like three and a half, but 55, 60, and 55 potentials. Big ground ball guy at 6'6" with 96 velocity. So unbelievable ceiling out of him. And then they also picked up a guy named Bobby Vega, who looks like a good prospect, and then Will Miranda. He just like looks like a normal corner outfielder guy. So a couple big moves there out of Toronto, picking up Vallejo. Toronto won almost 95. What was it, 96 games last year and missed the playoffs. They're really high run differential, and they just got squeezed out by Oakland and Toronto for the last wildcard spot. So that was really tough to see from such a good Toronto team missing the playoffs. We'll see if they can bounce back and have another really good year.
I think they do. I think they have a lot of impressive arms, especially coming up. Like I really like this kid Josh Potts in their lineup. In their it looks like he's gonna be in their bullpen,
Oh,
but I
the
think
lefty,
he,
yeah.
yeah, I think he's gonna be. I think he's a really interesting pitcher. And they have like a couple other guys similar like that. Because I remember when I was earlier in the offseason, I'll get a little behind the curtain, but Toronto and I were talking about potential Trout deals, but I could never really find a match there. But I thought that would have been an interesting fit, and like he had some very intriguing arms when I was looking at his roster.
Yeah, I like Hugh Smith a lot. 6'10" pitcher with a 70 slider,
Hmm.
65 movement. The guy's got a huge profile. So yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see them. Next up on my
Oh yeah.
list here, I got Texas making a big move. They haven't made too many big free agent signings in TLG, but they do make a solid one every year or two. This year, the big one was picking up one of my favorite players in TLG, Seth Beer. Seth Beer had a career year for me in Philly, and a couple years ago, 3.2 WAR, his best year of his career. Also had a huge year for you in Arizona. So the two guys on the podcast right now, he had his best years at 38 and 37 home runs for us. And then so he had a couple quieter years after that for the Dodgers. He had a below average year and then went to Oakland and got a slow start there. And they traded him to Montreal last year. Still had a decent year, 24 home runs in only 128 games. But the guy has a ceiling for like almost 40 home runs. So I think Texas putting him in that lineup with a couple other really good hitters gives him a really nice opportunity to have a big season there for a first base or DH spot. Like the move there, they gave him a huge front-loaded contract, 20 million this year, but only 5 million next year, and then a $10 million team option for the last year. So using their financial advantage, flexing them a little bit. I love when teams do those front-loaded deals, and then they can have really good value at the back end of the deal. So interesting to see how he goes out and performs after a down year with the Dodgers.
Yeah. Texas had a down year last year for their talent too. They really underachieved. Like I think they'll get close. I don't think they'll win as many games as they did. What was it, 2 years ago, where they were like 100+ win team? But I think they should be in the low 90s and back in the playoff picture this year. So I expect them to bounce back strong. And Seth Beers, I don't know if you played like like the two earlier versions. I feel like he becomes like the GOAT. So I've always been a big Seth Beers fan.
Yeah, he always had that crazy power. I remember like 70 home run power in those games for Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some really good talent. You're right about that. Acosta, Bannister, a couple of those superstars. The guy that really caught my eye last year was Joe Balnick, the left fielder. If you look at his profile and you click on the OSA has a 65 contact, 65 gap, 60 home run, and 65 void K on him. And if you look at his stats in the minor league last year, the dude went out and hit 378 with a 490 WOBA, 450 on base percentage in AAA last year. So in 47 games started, he had 3.5 WAR, and then he came up to the majors, and in just 80 games, the guy hit 309 with 12 home runs, 140 OPS plus, and he had almost 3 WAR in the majors in only 80 games. So the 2 seasons, he had almost 6.5 WAR. So the guy just really is looks like a legitimate talent. A fifth round pick, what a steal in the draft that was.
Yeah, I like that call out because I'll be honest, he was not on my radar, and I'm looking at him right now, and he looks great. I love the profile, especially in that park. Yeah, this is great value. Great. I feel like Tyler's done an incredible job drafting. I have to really dig deep into his draft history, but I feel like they're always getting like some random talent and coming out of nowhere from the draft because
Yeah,
he's not too active in the trade market, but like he's really built up the team. I feel like through smart signings and drafting.
yeah, he even snagged that Peraza on the the waiver wire a couple years ago, and then he went and had a 5 WAR season for him. So a couple of little shrewd moves under the radar there. I like it. Next
Yeah.
up, we have Houston. Houston made a couple huge additions this offseason. Both on the pitcher side here, they went and they signed Cal Quantrill right at the start of free agency. Shocked everybody. I think that was the very first sim, which the top guys usually don't sign that early. They got him for a nice deal, 13, 16, 16, and 14 million over 4 years, for about 60 million. The guy has been an absolute unit in Boston. Put up 20 career WAR in his career so far. A really beautiful profile. Has another guy like Nola that just kind of checks all the boxes. Has green everywhere you look. Fan favorite. High work ethic. High intelligence. Should age pretty well. The only downside is he's fragile, but he's also 33. What 33-year-old pitcher in real life isn't really fragile, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And he also brought in didn't he bring Asa Lacey just
That's
in
right.
recently or Asa? That's a
Yeah.
huge addition right there. Texas kid coming home, lefty 6'4". Houston really last year was a tale of two halves. Like they were really cold to begin the year, and then they played more to their talent. And did they make the playoffs or did they just miss it? I forget. It's been so long.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember too. Let's I'll look at their history real
Well,
quick.
either way, I think they're gonna like
Yeah, they
play
just
closer
missed.
to their potential this year. So I think if I had to, I think they would be my pick right now for the AL West. But I have to look deeper. It's either them or Seattle. I have to look at both rosters and see who I think is gonna win the
Tight
division.
one, eh? Yeah, you're right. Houston did make playoffs. They won 95 games, so they did definitely roar down the stretch last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, because
And
they started really, they were struggling for like a few months too. And I remember looking at the team and I just couldn't figure out why they were struggling because they were like loaded at every position.
yeah, it always seems to be their pitching that lets them down a little bit. The early years, they always were really good, and then they had really unlucky injuries. I remember way early days of TLG, like 2020, 2021. I remember they had like Buster Posey and Kyber Ruiz, and they had like 2 years in a row where like both the catchers got injured down the stretch, and they just had to have like a fourth string catcher or something stupid like that. And then missed the playoffs once or twice because of that. And then they went a few years, they just didn't quite have good enough pitching. And then they always had the hitters. And then they got this year is probably the best their pitching has looked coming into a season. Juancho, Lacey, Ferguson, Castillo, those are all really good arms. And so I think this year is definitely, and Tracy they have too. The guy I traded them a couple years ago looks like an absolute stud. So I think looking at them, they probably have the best pitching they've had in the history of TLG. So I think this could be the year Houston does really, really well. We'll see. Really like how they put together those that rotation in the offseason, though, adding those two guys. Next up, we have
Yeah,
San
I'm very
Francisco.
impressed.
San Francisco is your
Oh,
division rival here. They went and they did looked a lot the same. They had a really good team that is mostly built up from their own guys like Leto and Ramos and a lot of guys they've homegrown. They made one big move though, and that was picking up Mackenzie Gore from your other division rival, San Diego. That was a huge addition. Gore is one of the top five lefties in baseball, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, they gave up a lot to get him, but that was I did not love that move as a division rival. I don't think San Francisco needs to add any more talent. They're pretty good as it is. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to pump up their tires too much, but yeah, they're gonna. I mean, they're gonna be they're gonna be a pain in the ass the whole year. I think. Um, Trying to be as unbiased as I think them, Colorado, and myself are the top three teams in our division. I think we're gonna duke it out, and I think there's gonna be some distance this year between the Dodgers and the Padres. And I mean, anytime you have Luke Leto, Hudson Potts, freaking Arenado, and then like
Jeez.
now you add like a top pitcher, like you're gonna be within it. Like you're gonna have a chance. So I really like them in the regular season and in the playoffs. Who knows? But they definitely have the talent to make a lot of noise.
Yeah, I agree with you there. There's a little too much talent not to be good. They just are. Yeah, adding the lefties really big too because they were pretty much all righties. Other than that, they got the couple really good righty arms,
Mm-hmm.
Tang and Gaston. So adding a lefty helps for sure against any
And
teams
then
that have a
the
lot of
Ford
lefties.
Hater lefty combo in the
Ooh,
bullpen is just brutal,
yeah, so
brutal.
that's three really good lefties now. That yeah, it was a nice
Yeah.
move there for sure. And then next up we have Colorado. Colorado went and made two huge additions. First of all, they went and traded for Andy Weber. Andy is one of the best offensive players in TLG. I think someone posted, I think it was Texas Tyler posted in the chat yesterday, the preseason predictions have an outlandish number on Andy Weber. They have his prediction for like hitting 330 with like 65 home runs and 180 RBIs, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen out of a preseason prediction. That would be essentially Barry Bonds type shit, like 9 WAR or whatever it was. The prediction was at. I thought he would be pretty good. I think I talked about it in my last video. I didn't. I don't think it'd be that outrageous, but I think he will put up some crazy stats in Coors. So that was a huge addition. I don't have to talk a lot about that. Just picking up a nice big bat at first base. The big one though that I want to talk about was the very cool signing of the guy from Taiwan here. He came in as an international free agent with no history. The guy has 60 home run power, 70 I, and he signed for $40 million a year, the richest contract in the history of baseball on a per year basis. Overtakes Mookie Betts' $40 million a year. What do you think about Lou Ju?
I mean, so I have to admit my scouting accuracy on him is low. So I reserve, as Bill Parcells says, I reserve the right to change my mind. So I mean, I think he's a good player. I don't know if I would give him the 40 million price tag that he got to retire. That seems like that could be a slipper. I mean, if he regresses, that could be a pretty brutal contract. But Colorado's a pretty smart GM, so I trust his judgment. But yeah, that contract is it's hard to ignore because if it goes down, if it works out, it's great. But when's the player option in like 5 years, 4 years? So that's I mean
Yeah, after
that
4 years,
hefty
it's an
price
option.
tag. What
That's
like
crazy.
what kind of war each year would you expect with that price tag, or be happy with your return?
Yeah,
Do you
that's a good
think?
question. I think in general they say on the free agent market a war is worth between 8 and 9 million. So in real life, usually like a 3 war guy gets, and then it goes up a little more in free agency at the start. So especially like those premium positions like shortstop and center field and stuff. So I I could see like you'd have to expect him to be like a 5 war guy at least to get that kind of price tag. I know you're outbid. There's a
That's
couple teams with a
doable
lot
with
of
his
money.
ratings.
Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah,
5 war means you're like an MVP type candidate. So it's he might obviously not quite be worth that, but at the same time, I guess he just didn't want to lose out on him because there was a team like St. Louis that had a ton of money, and then also when you're competing, I think he was probably bidding in St. Louis from what I remember, and St. Louis had like $90 million to spend. So I think he figured if he didn't overpay a little bit, St. Louis would get him, and then not only like you said earlier with the Atlanta thing with me, it's like not only would you not have him, but then he would have him. So if you look at it that way, that's a big swing because I think he's planning to play him at second base here. He trained him up at second, and he has 60 infield range. So I think if he puts him at second, you have a second baseman there that has a 50 hit tool with 60 power and 70 eye, give you a pretty good production. Like I said, it's just very, like you said, it's very risky going with the $40 million a year. But if you don't look at the contract and you just look at his talent, it's a pretty big addition. Like I said, second base with that kind of athleticism, 65 runner and steal some bases for you, play a pretty good defense, be a good base runner, and get on base quite a bit with a 70 eye. Walk probably like 14% of the time. Hit 30 home runs. That's in cores especially. His average might play up a bit. So the cores is a really good fit for that because, like I said, plays the batting average up, and that's the one weak part of his game is he's just not a great contact guy in avoid K. Everything else is pretty plus though, so I think he maybe looked at that and figured he could get his contact up to like 280 in cores, and then with the plus eye and power, he'd just be really valuable. So I could see his thought process there, why he'd be so valuable, and probably just wanting to lure him away from St. Louis. So a lot of things going on there with that. I could be wrong on some of that. Maybe St. Louis wasn't as hard into him as I thought, but I'm sure somebody else would have been. I can't remember who had a lot of money, but definitely a big
yeah,
addition though to an already really good lineup. That might be the best offensive lineup I've seen in TLG's history. If you look at it 1 to 9, they just don't have any weak spots. Even their catcher's a good hitter here with 60 avoid K and a pretty decent runner. They got absolutely everything here. They got all three outfielders can mash the ball. Three of the best outfield hitters in baseball, and then they got Peterson. Looks like an MVP candidate now. That Jew guy now at second base, and then Andy Weber at first is one of the best
yeah.
first
No,
basemen. It's just a scary lineup.
a very fantastic lineup. I'm very. I mean, if they weren't in my division, I'd be more curious to see what they do. But I hope it blows up in their face. But I don't think it will.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, no.
A lot can change from day one. Opening day always looks all bright and roses for everybody, and
Rose,
then the injuries start to
exactly.
hit.
Rose-colored glasses.
So if you look at the overall standings, that's all the guys I got in my list for the big offseason additions. I probably missed one or two. I went over it pretty quickly. Sorry if
But at the
anybody's
same
watching.
time, if we don't remember it right now, was it really that big?
That's a good point. I guess we got
If it
the
gets left off the list,
yeah. We went. I kind of skimmed over all of them. So unless I missed like a big reliever or something, I think that was all the big hitters. Looking at the list now, this is going to be a really nice year. I think the AL. What I get most excited about is I think the AL is the most balanced it's been. There was a lot of years where the NL, in my opinion, was quite a bit better than the AL. But now that you have so many good young players in the AL, it's finally starting to balance out. Now that Cleveland's gotten a lot better, and then Minnesota's on the up and up with all those top prospects, and Chicago's still good. That Central's finally starting to look a lot better and not as bad as it used to be. And then the West is looking a lot better now too. Oakland really looks good to me. They look like a playoff team with an amazing rotation they have and a couple of really good hitters. Houston looks awesome to me. And then the Angels and Texas Rangers both had really good years the last couple of years. I know, like you said, the Texans had a down year last year, and the Angels had a down year the year before. But in those other years, those teams were both really good teams. So that West looks a lot better now too. And then the East, you got obviously they're the best division every year, other than the NL West, pretty much. They got the Red Sox and Orioles are both really good teams. Obviously, the Jays missed playoffs with like 95 wins or something, so they're a really good team. And then Montreal has a couple big talents, and then you still have the Yankees with a big payroll, even though they're on like a rebuilding thing. So I really like the balance. I think it's a little more balanced now. I think the AL's kind of recovered from a couple rebuilding seasons, and I think they had a lot of rebuilding teams there for a couple years. I think they're a lot more competitive now, so it should be a really balanced year this year in TLG from all 6 divisions, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm me personally for the Diamondbacks. I think we're gonna take a step back, but I think I'm excited for the development of some prospects this year, and I think we can be like a mid-80s team, maybe squeak into the playoffs, and I'll consider that a success if my guys in the farm develop.
Yeah, you seem to always be really good. I think you have 3 years in a row. You've had like 90-something wins for Arizona there. The look at your team history here. Let's see here. Yeah, so you went to Arizona and you've had, yeah, so 89, 92, 95, 92 wins the 4 seasons now. So, yeah, if you're right on pace there for your average there is about the low 90s. So we'll see how you do this year without your boy Trout. But you do still have a lot of talent there with Bogan and Alvarez and some really good hitters, Napier. So still got a bunch of big names there. We'll see how that fares in a really tough NL West. That's going to be a crazy
Yeah,
division.
yeah, I do think though it's not going to be as tough as it was in years past because I do think the Padres are going in a direction where they're going to be not as competitive. This year they definitely are in the rebuild, and Dodgers I don't think are quite there yet. I still think the three between the Rockies, Giants, and Diamondbacks will be tough, but I don't think it's as deep as or as balanced. Like I think maybe Tyler from the Rangers might like to hear this, but maybe the AL East is better this year. Or maybe even the AL West is better this year than the NL West, which I didn't always think was the case. I was always biased towards the NL West.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That AOS is. I'm really excited to keep an eye on them. Like my buddy said, I think Oakland might be a playoff team, and I was looking. I'm like, yeah, with that good of pitchers, they might be. That, but yeah, that Texas team is just loaded too. I think that Texas, you could actually make a pretty good argument that Texas might have the best roster in TLG right now, above anybody, even like Boston or St. Louis. That Texas team, or sorry, that Houston team is just absolutely loaded with Bellinger and the Pena and all those pitchers now. That's a scary looking team. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Oh
The
yeah.
two West though definitely going to have a couple of good teams. That's for sure. So that'll be it for this episode. We won't go on too long. We'll probably make some other type preview episode in the next few days. I have a lot of time off work. My entire workplace caught COVID, so I was one of them. I'm on day 7 or something of the quarantine, maybe day 5, whatever I'm at. So I'll have lots of time for some TLG videos if you guys are interested. So thank you so much for joining me, Gamma. That was fun, like always. Some really good commentary, and I'm looking forward to the season. And it sounds like you are too. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, anytime. And shout out to all the other GMs who are listening. I'd love to get some fresh blood to hear what some other people's voices sound like because Lord knows I get tired of hearing this. So definitely love to hear some other hosts as well.
Yeah, I've been trying to get our World Series champ Brian on. He's also stuck with COVID quarantine, so we'll see if we can get him on the next few days. He's got a couple kids to look after, I think, so he doesn't have a lot of free
Uh,
time. But I'll try to get him on for you guys next
Priorities.
time and get the opinions of the Master World Series champ. All right, see you guys.